Howdy neighbor, how is your spring garden preparation going? I'm still in the spring vegetable garden prep. Like, we're still working on this thing. I've been picking away at my list. We've definitely made a bunch of progress, but we still have a lot more to do. So today what I'm gonna be doing, well, I'll take you around and kind of point out things that we're gonna work on, and we're just gonna keep going until this is done. But I feel like we're kind of coming to the, maybe not today, but hopefully the next time I get out in the garden, like that's hopefully like the bulk of the vegetable garden prep, because I'm really excited to get over into my native wildflowers and start working on those projects. But the vegetables, you know, the season for doing certain things is a lot more compact than when it comes to my wildflowers. So let me show you what I'm thinking we got to get done today. So first up, we need to string up these tomatoes. You can see like this one is leaning on the ground. I kept, since we've planted them, just leaning it on here, but I just need to get string and like get them up and out of the way. I then need to, I've got some additional lettuce transplants that I'm going to add in here so we can fill out this bed. So that will take care of that bed. We're then going to put our fourth row of soil here so that we can take a few of these eggplants and we're going to put them on the edges, but mostly just leave them alone. And then what we're going to do, we will top off this vegetable bed, and then we will top off this vegetable bed. And then depending on how much soil is left, I'm gonna just, well, hopefully there's only a little left, then I'll just add it into the compost bin, and then I can just like marinate with the compost. If there's a lot left, I'm hoping there's not gonna be a lot left. Hopefully there's not a lot left. We need to use up the soil because I don't have really any other area that like needs it. So yeah, that's my goal. That's it. And then once we're done kind of dealing with the soil stuff, I'm going to be doing a liquid fertilizer, a homemade liquid fertilizer, nitrogen treatment to my veggies in the back, because I continue to feel like that soil is just very high sawdust content, and I think it's leaching some nitrogen from the plants. So I just want to kind of correct that quickly before it continues on and like really impacts yields. So we'll do that. And I think if I get all of that done today, then we're good. We're good. And then the next time we come out here, we'll deal with the shenanigans. But I think with what was on my list, like I feel like I've broken it up well. I feel like I can accomplish this across like kind of the next couple days. So that's my goal. So let's get going with stringing up the tomatoes so that they're just not like falling over. Do you know what's really interesting is I have been seeing, ever since we put this vegetable garden in the back, I've been seeing way more monarchs in the back garden than we used to see. And you may be like, so you planted milkweed? No. I always saw this in the front, but it's interesting to see it now in the back. Oh, look, right now. What I have been seeing is the monarchs, they like to sit on the tomato plants, which are in the nightshade family, and they keep coming in, but now that they're all leaning down, they haven't been hanging out as much. And I will not be surprised that once these are strung up, that we get a bunch more monarchs back here. And the reason monarchs, so monarchs like lots of flowers. Of course they like milkweed because that's where they put their babies. But the thing is that there is a native type of nightshade that they really like getting nectar for. And I think what happens is they get attracted to the tomatoes because they're part of that nightshade, the Solaninium family. So I'm betting once I string these up, we're gonna see the monarchs actually hanging out on the tomato plants, because that's what they used to always do with the Everglades tomatoes that were on the trellis. They don't really like coming down low. That's like a big thing for monarch butterflies. I know we're talking about vegetable gardening, but like, hey, butterflies. So they don't really like coming down like low, like a foot or two off the ground. But like if they come like 2 feet, 3 feet up, they'll start to come down. And if they're in the 3 to 4 foot range, the tomatoes, they definitely will just like, they'll just hang out on the leaves. I see it all the time. So it's really cool. And what's already cool, I don't know if you saw in that footage, because hopefully I did like a little like spring montage as I went to go get my stuff. We already have a monarch caterpillar jaying over there, which is kind of cool. That was like that's a decent distance from the milkweed that's already popped back up. So not a vegetable thing, totally a gardening thing though. So let's flip around and we're gonna go focus on getting these tomatoes strung up so Mr. Monarch or Mrs. Monarch can come hang out on them. So what I'm doing is I drop the string down next to the tomato so I can kind of figure out where it is it's going. And then I'll have to tilt you up so you can see a little bit better. So what I'm then doing is I just take this and I go between this point and this point, and then, oops, I don't need that much string. And then I just tie a little quick knot. And this is the thing is tomatoes are pretty good at trellising themselves if they can reach, which obviously they can't right now. And so all I'm doing is just trying to give them a little bit help to get up here. And then once they get up here, they'll start weaving themselves through. Sometimes you can like help them a little bit, but like you don't have to do like a ton. And so, yes. And then what we do down here, let's go back down. What I do is I'm gonna cut off extra down here. And then what I'm doing is I'm just kind of loosely wrapping around the stem because I don't want to cut off, like basically restrict the plant too much. I just want to like kind of secure it. So I'm just doing kind of like a very loose knot that I could cut later if I need to. Do you see who came? Oh, can you guys see that? Oh, you can't see that. Monarch was like literally just here again. That's all I'm doing for these little guys. It might not be a perfect way. If you guys have any tips, you know I'm always open to them. Oh look, one of those pumpkins. Those in my compost popped up. So we're gonna keep going and just staking that. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move you guys back a little bit so that we can see if Mr. and Mrs. Monarch's gonna come land on these tomatoes. I think they're a little freaked out because I'm like too close to the ones now that are standing up. So let me scoot on yonder. But here's the cool thing, look. We've already got more tomatoes going. So we're gonna have a good little harvest. Yay! I think it'll help because like this one over here, you can tell with it leaning on the ground, like it started kind of changing directions in which way it was growing, kind of like how this one did. You see how it kind of was starting to like go that way. So we'll try to course correct it back up. Did you all see? I think it was a zebra longwing. It almost like flew right at me. Hopefully the video caught it. So we got stringing up the tomatoes done. All I did with the one tomato, because it was, I just poked myself in the ear. The one tomato was super small, so I just put the string there so when it gets a little bit bigger, then I can just, it's ready to go and it'll be just like a really quick tie up. So next what we're gonna do is we are gonna go put in our lettuce, because that's like a fast and easy. So for those who've been following along, you may be wondering, why do you have lettuce starts you need to transplant? Because are your soil blocks ready? No. Here's what happened was I was doing, I would say pretty good. For those who had done soil blocks before, a lot of them told me like the first time they did it, even when they had the right stuff, they only had like, well, a lot of them didn't get anything or they struggled. I would say like 50% of my stuff like sprouted. I was doing really good. It was getting leggy, so that was bad. But then Ben went out of town for work for a week, and I sprayed them every day. I like spritzed them, but I probably just didn't do it enough because I was so busy. So they died. He got back home and I was like, oh, okay, let me like make sure they're like really, really, yeah. So I was over by Home Depot and I was like, well, you know what? They had lettuce starts. Let me go grab some lettuce starts and let's just get them in the ground. And then we can restart soil blocks with warm weather crops, and I'll focus more on my tomatoes and peppers. Cause I even had tomatoes sprouting and I was like, ugh. So it is what it is. Just rolling with it. And here's my thought process about lettuce. Lettuce is one of those really, really, really good return on investment type plants. So spending $1 on a plant, you will typically get it back 2 times, 3 times. So if I would have gotten seeds, you know, then you're talking about like 4 to 5 times the savings, but yeah, 2 to 3 times the savings is still really good. So my intent is in the near future is that Ben and I do eat a lot of salads, but with so much lettuce coming in that we'll be eating a lot of salads. Plus I'm also green papayas. Been looking up a lot of green papaya recipes, so we are going to be so svelte. We'll be so filled with nutrition and good greeny things. So, and overall, I feel like our lettuce has been doing super, super good. I do need to thin it because there's like a few of these that have like 3 heads, but I was waiting for them to get a little bit bigger so that they weren't too like soft and delicate when you go to eat them. So I will come through and thin these probably this coming week so we can eat them. And basically I got the same type of romaine, all green. And what we'll do is we'll just go in between all the plants, including the red ones. I was hoping I could get the red romaine because then I just felt like it was like a really cute look, but you know, just get lettuce, get it going. And that's what we're gonna do. So instead of going and grabbing compost, what I'm gonna do instead is I'm just gonna go do diluted urine. I think it's like a 4-to-1 or a 10-to-1 ratio. We're just gonna put a little in and then we're just gonna pour in the beds because I mean, it's like sometimes I think this looks really good and sometimes I just feel like it looks like a bunch of sawdust. So I'm gonna jump up the nitrogen in the area a lot. Looks like a tomato. And help that kind of offsets some of the things, especially that I see with the brassicas. The brassicas are the ones that keep looking like there's some sort of nitrogen issue. Everything else looks okay, but then again, some of these have shallower root systems. So with me throwing compost in, maybe that wasn't as big of a deal. We are heating up here. I'm zone 10A and we're starting to get days in the 80s. We have another cold snap coming through, which I'm not as worried about because I think we're only gonna get, I know other places are gonna probably hit the 30s, but here in zone 10, we're only gonna hit like 49. So all these cold weather crops are gonna be totally fine for me. Ugh, I can't wait to start doing my harvest. I feel like we're really close. You know what, I'm silly. I'm like doing the scoot down and I can really just do it right here because I'm not, there's no difference between what I'm planting. Just do these right here. I'm a silly goose. I just think this red and green romaine just looks very pretty. So with this, so this is basically $36. Like if we count all the lettuce we've bought, not the seeds obviously that I killed, but if we just look at this, this is $36 worth of lettuce. So if we can, at a minimum, get $36 back out, then all things being equal, it was just a fun activity. But if we can get more than $36 out, then this was worth the effort. And with inflation continuing to be silly, and there just continues, you know, to be like weird agricultural interruptions. I know eggs is like a big thing right now. I know a lot of y'all were asking me about like chickens and eggs, and whether I was gonna start growing chickens, having chickens. We don't want to eat a lot of eggs. And 2, we would not get chickens. Not because chickens are bad, or like, we can do them in our city. I think we can have up to 4 or 10. But the only reason, because we've talked about doing it before, is our youngest is really, really, really allergic to chicken eggs. Like, we have made cookies in the kitchen, and if you crack the egg and turn on the mixer and he's in the kitchen, he starts having massive allergic reactions. So, like, eyes swelling up, trouble swallowing, he'll have diarrhea all night, and that's just like he's in the room. So having chickens laying eggs all over the place, not something we would risk with him. But if you've been thinking about chickens, I mean, I would do it. If we didn't have like an allergy problem, I would definitely be much more, you know, thinking about it. The only other thing, like, as a city person that I would kind of consider, well, not just a city person in particular, but like the other considerations that like I see with the chicken thing is, like, one, how much do you actually use eggs? We don't eat a ton of eggs. We eat we eat mostly vegetarian. We're not vegetarian. I would say we're flexitarian, because we'll eat steak, we'll eat, you know, like scrambled eggs, we'll have bacon once in a blue moon, but it's more of like we eat meat like once a week, not multiple times a week. So for us to have like chickens and then all the eggs and all this stuff is like, just having seen like Roots and Refuge and Acre Homestead have, and Simple Living Alaska, like, be like, at certain points with eggs. I know they figured out stuff since then, but having those kind of situations, one, I'm like, well, if they use a lot of eggs and they're like overwhelmed with eggs, what would we be like if we don't really use that many eggs anyways? So for us, that's something that I'm just gonna tell us things that were in our head. And then 2, space. And then 3, it's like another pet, which, yes. And then 4, with a special needs kid, you know, it's just, sometimes that's a lot of work. So adding, again, something that's more work. And then just like the constant, consistent upkeep just felt like for us, that probably wasn't gonna be a good choice. But if you wanna do it, I think you should. If you eat a lot of eggs, if you want to do meat chickens, you know, like, I think you should. I definitely think the financials are there for it. You know, if you go in with like understanding that if you're going to do like chicken egg stuff, like, you know, you're basically essentially, you've got livestock / a pet. So that takes a lot of effort. But if you're up for that effort and doing it forever and ever, or at least for years, you know, and you use a lot of eggs, or you have a lot of family that eats a lot of eggs, then the numbers seem to be there from what I can see. But if you're hoping that one day you're going to see me doing chickens on this channel, you will not. It's not going to happen. So, but it's not because I'm against chickens. It's not because I'm like, boo, you shouldn't have your own eggs or some other weird thing. It's just literally like, it's too risky for us to have chicken eggs around. So I figured I'd give you guys that update, because I've been getting more and more comments because of the conversation that's happening, you know, around the prices of chicken eggs. And, you know, we keep going through these waves of avian flu. I pay more attention to it because of the wildlife than I do from like a grocery store perspective. But it just seems like, you know, the last few years, really ever since COVID hit and supply chain got disrupted, because I talked about, I worked in food manufacturing. We've never really recovered. We've never really settled out the supply chain. So it's not that these things didn't happen before, from what I saw in my portion of the food industry. It's just the resiliency in the food supply chain is not there. And it's just like every little hiccup now, because we always have hiccups. Like, there's always like a disease in a crop, and there's always like, you know, manufacturing lines that go down, or people get sick and you're short staffed. Like, that's stuff that happens. But when everything, in order to like meet your numbers, requires everything to go perfect, then your system's not robust. And that's what basically happened during COVID, is I just watched our whole supply chain across the industries, like really, really, really kind of just like, and it just has not recovered. And it's going to take a while to recover, especially when we went into like the Great Resignation. There was too much churn of tenured really seasoned employees where you had what we call tribal knowledge kind of stuff, leaving, moving around, retiring. And it just, when you have a very seasoned employee, you lose them. And then if you lose 10% of them or 20%, I mean, it is a rough few years. Because I've worked in departments where we kind of went through seasons of that, you know, so to have it going on across the entire industry is just, I just knew like it was always just going to keep being like, So, you know, so when, you know, I feel like the conversation around has calmed down quite a bit around like growing your own food being cost effective. I feel like I remember when I started, I know a lot of people were like, you're crazy, that's silliness. But like now I feel like a lot more people get it. Like, because when you work in the food supply chain, you start to realize like, oh, well, this kind of has a problem. Like there was a point during COVID in 2020 where when I talk about like supply chain disruptions, it wasn't stuff that made the news. It was like we started having pallet problems, like the things that everything moves around on. And I know this is like not spring garden prep, but like let's have like a little sidebar conversation. But basically, you know, the pallets that like Walmart and Publix and all these big companies require you to use to move food around, like a major company, like Fortune 50 company, could not get enough. And when you're having those kind of supply chain issues, that's not just impacting one brand of food, it's like everything's impacted. So it's just stuff like that. And it takes a long time for that. And I know some of that stuff is still going on. So yeah. So buy your $36 worth of lettuce starts and just get going on stuff, because it does pick away. And I do feel like if you are thinking about food and like what are some good return on investments, like lettuce is one of those ones, like if you can make really like hearty salads, it's a really good way to like get some savings. So lettuce. So let's continue. This is a fun chat. I can fit more in. I feel like that looks super cute. Does that not look super cute? I'm feeling really good about our lettuce bed. I'm not feeling so great about my spinach right now, but I feel really good about my lettuce bed. So next up, we are gonna move over to this sweetie mess of a thing. And we are going to add our 4th row of dirt, no mulch. I might peel back a little bit of the mulch because it got like really wide in this section right here. And then I'm thinking, so I was gonna do peppers, all peppers, but what I'm gonna do is actually do, I think 4 of the eggplants back here, just because I have the sun issues up front. And not this video, but with the next video, we'll go deal with the front, and I'm gonna do a lot of those eggplants up front. But in case my shade issues continue to be my shade issues, I'd like to get some eggplants this year. So we'll do 4 back here, and that'll leave us plenty of space for a lot of peppers, because I'm gonna do a lot of peppers. And I'm excited to try my soil blocks again and do it with peppers, because I have my ají dulce, whatever you want to call them, seeds that I saved from last year. I saved some cubanelles from my cubanelle plants that did really well, so we'll put them back here. And then I think I'm going to try to go find some like sweet, I think I saw some banana peppers at Home Depot, so I'll probably like pick up some of those, and then jalapenos. And that'll be kind of like what I do right in here. So we'll pick those up, not today, but another day. This is looking cute. I feel like this is looking very cute. And now it's time to do the hard one, which is move a ton of soil. I think that's why I'm talking so long, because I'm like, I'm tired. I don't really want to do that. But I should do that, because it'll be good. It'll be good. It'll be good. Now you may be thinking, I thought you usually say no cardboard. Why the cardboard? Well, I've had a learning, and you know I'm gonna tell you guys. You know I'm not gonna hide anything from y'all. So the grass is growing up and through this stuff. This is the first time I've ever had that happen. And the difference that is apparently the difference is that when you get that fresh mulch from like chip drop, it's cooking. So it cooks whatever's underneath it. This stuff was aged, weathered, I don't know, but it's not cooking. And I noticed that when we were moving it, because like when you move it, like normally there's like smoke coming off of it, which really sucks to move it. But this pile didn't, which would have been nice because it was kind of cold out, so I wouldn't have minded a little bit of heat. But that's one of the things I noticed. And now that I'm seeing all the grass come through, I'm like, oh, well, it can't be grass like the, because there was really no grass in that area and it's popping up everywhere. Or if it is grass, then where were you all summer? Where were you all fall? Where were you all winter when you were looking dead? So it's something coming back up and through. So I'm amending my findings from before. If you've got fresh mulch that's like recently cut down tree, go ahead, don't need cardboard. But if it's aged stuff, yeah, then you need it. Well, you need something to barrier because, so I'm hoping this can be less than 10 loads, but we will see. Hopefully 10 loads or less. So I'm going to go get the rest of the dirt. Montage, speed up time. Okay, so that stuff's done. I'm gonna go take a break and then I will come back and we'll plant in some eggplants a little bit later. Okay.